I used to believe that the Olympics were about having fun. I've now learned that I was a stupid child, because the Olympics are really about yelling at each other. They're about yelling, and they're about spreading some of the dumbest opinions that a human being could ever theoretically even conceive. Now that we have some distance from the event, and my post-Olympic hangover has long since gone away, I want to take a deep dive and look at what we actually saw during the Paris Olympics. Are the people of France secretly Satan worshippers? Is the nation of Algeria secretly cheating wokely? And is breakdancing an actual Olympic sport?
My dad abandoned my family when I was 5 years old. That is a wife and 4 kids. He abandoned us and then pursued amateur breakdancing.
Or is it merely a plot by a 30-something Australian PhD candidate named Raygun? Okay, maybe that is a little bit too far-fetched. I feel like this has been the most visible and publicized Olympics in recent memory, which means that people's stupid opinions have been even more visible than they otherwise would be. There have been a lot of angry people trying to project ideology on what is supposed to be an athletic competition. And honestly, even going beyond that, there have also been a lot of things that have been said that really just don't make any sense at all. Stupidity, ultimately, has no partisan lean. My name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat. This is still my only gold medal, and let's get into it. So in an effort to provide some context, it is worth noting that the Olympics have always been somewhat political in nature. Now, they've always been political, but it seems that only in the modern age have they become just so inundated with morons. But the Olympics in history were often fairly significant and fairly politically impactful. If you go back to ancient Greece, where they actually came from, time was literally structured around the years of the Olympic Games. But back then, it wasn't necessarily countries competing against each other. Instead, it was various different cities competing against each other, and they all would have their rivalries. You know, Athens versus Sparta, that's a pretty famous one. And that rivalry is a little bit like the New York versus Boston rivalry we have now, except back then the Athenians and the Spartans had the good nature to, you know, try to murder each other on the fields of war, rather than today, where the New York fans and the Boston fans will merely exchange different slurs in Fenway Park.
Yeah, it's hilarious, right? The bar is full, it's hilarious. You should change your... Oh, bury your mother!
And the modern Olympics were featuring highlights which include, but are not limited to, Jesse Owens repudiating an evil German government, and because of YouTube, that is all we will say about said evil German government, but you all know which one I'm talking about. John Carlos and Tommy Smith protested for civil rights on the pedestal. And multiple different Olympics in the past few decades have been boycotted for various political reasons of various levels of moral righteousness. There's a lot of cameras, a lot of history, and a lot of political implications in an international competition, such as the way it goes, but honestly, none of it has been this stupid before. And the stupidity in Paris 2024 started, literally, in the first few hours. NBC spent a lot of money to get exclusive streaming rights for the Olympics, which seems to have paid off for them because I can't recall ever watching Greco-Roman wrestling or beach volleyball, and I can't say I'm certain to ever watch them again. And as they bring us to the opening ceremony, I will here once again remind you that the Olympics are a Greek tradition. They are a Greek thing that the Greeks invented, and this is just a reminder for those of you who read, you know, The Hunger Games instead of Percy Jackson as a child. The Greek legends are full of a bunch of Greek gods doing a lot of odd shit. But a lot of people claimed, mostly just on vibes, that the opening ceremony was mocking the Last Supper, and therefore also them. If you base a lot of your self-worth on the fact that you worship a Christian god, and you are offended by what is essentially a musical put on by the French government, I don't know what to tell you, other than the fact that you are incredibly fragile. I'd also advise that you learn how to count, because the Last Supper very famously has 13 people, and this display put on by the French government notably does not have 13 people. And last I checked, and feel free to fact check me in the comments, Jesus Christ was not a husky smurf representing the Greek god of wine, Bacchus. People are objecting to it because I guess it looks vaguely similar, even though it's not. I guess the only thing that's there is the fact that it's a centered composition, in which case, I guess Wes Anderson is also demonic. Look at those pastel colors. Satan! Now look, I will concede that the nearly naked blue man and the headless Marie Antoinette probably did not assuage the concerns of socially conservative parents all across the Midwest. Oh, Barb, did you hear? Those French people, they hate God, and they love chopping off the heads of women. Also, I made a casserole. But like, The opening ceremony of the Olympics are not really designed to be 100% loved by everybody. They're designed to be a showcase of the host nation's culture. And the culture of France is they invented a head chopping off machine and they wanted a proof of concept, so they tested it on the inventor. And the king. And the queen. I almost feel like the only thing that would have made conservatives happy about this opening ceremony is if the only thing on the stage would have been an anthropomorphic baguette who talks in English, praying to Jesus, and then thanks the Americans for bailing them out in World War II. Except then somehow that wouldn't even be good enough. Like, there would be a scandal about how the bread was sourdough instead of white bread, and that somehow it's woke. Instead of celebrating the awesome Olympic athletes who actually make any of this possible, some of whom are competing in their last ever Olympics, it's all being overshadowed just because some people are upset that there are drag queens in a musical number. Next, you're telling me there are gonna be gay people who work in musical theater industries. And speaking of our athletes, this Olympics brought forward into the public eye something that we've kind of already known, but it shed light on the harsh reality that some of these Olympians face as they proudly and boldly compete for their country's glory. Sorry, I still have to shake off some of this Olympic-induced unearned patriotism for this country I live in, which occasionally tries to take my rights away. Okay, we're good. But the simple reality is that the Olympics usually don't really pay. Unless you're already a famous and notable athlete, you're probably not going to get any sponsorships, and despite the fact that you're going to spend years of your life and thousands of hours of your time training for this one moment every 4 years, you're really not going to see that much in the way of money. Fair, you might say. Perhaps being a professional in hammer throw is not the most sustainable career path. There are very few ways to pivot off of that. A newspaper route, becoming a human maypole like Mr. Krabs, or winning that game over and over again at the carnival where you have to knock down those cans with a ball. And if you won that game enough, you would be rich. Not in money, but in oversized Rasta bananas. So, okay, maybe you feel that Olympians don't deserve to have their needs met. Fine. But then don't you dare complain when some of these Olympians have to get a little bit creative to make their ends meet. And many did complain when Canadian bronze medalist Alyssa Newman had the audacity to... Is this right? Twerk. Is that it? Oh, she also had an OnlyFans. How dare she? How dare she find a way to make money instead of leading into the very lucrative career of being a professional pole vaulter? The nerve of this woman. It appears we're at the perfect intersection of hating women, capitalism, and an American culture of puritanism, despite the fact that this woman is from Canada. First of all, if you're gonna sit here and seriously complain about the fact that this woman has an OnlyFans, get bent, losers. It's her body, and she can do with it what she wants. And now, she's an Olympic medalist. Second, it is almost unimaginably difficult to make it to the Olympics, let alone actually get a medal, so you have to give credit to people like Newman who are actually willing to follow their dreams. Third, if she went back in time to those early modern 1900s Olympics and twerked in front of that crowd, I think they all would have been so shocked they would have engaged in a sort of mass-calculated Victorian suicide, and I just think that mental image is pretty funny. And last but not least, the original Olympics, original Olympics, had guys rolling around naked all oiled up wrestling, so the Olympics have always been pretty sex positive. Although, according to some people, even if you chase your dream and win your dream, it is still not enough. That's right, some people were chirping at Olympic gold medalist Jordan Lyles for winning the race but not winning it enough.
Can you really go around claiming I'm the fastest, I'm the greatest, I'm this, that, and the other thing when you won by 5/100ths of a second? This is not exactly Usain Bolt throwing up deuces like, a peace sign to the guys behind him.
In the immortal words of Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last. Although, if you're first, but you don't win in a way that's cool enough, I guess you're also still last. Let me spell this out for you. If you are in a race to be the fastest man in the world, and you win the race either by a couple milliseconds like he did in reality, or if you win by a mile, like this guy did when he was running on the football field and it was collapsing around him in the movie Batman, either way, you are the fastest man in the world. In Paris, though, winning isn't always everything. After being beaten by Chinese swimmers, most notably in the men's 100-meter freestyle, many people were up in arms, baselessly accusing the Chinese team of cheating. One of these people clapping from the peanut gallery is Australian swim coach Brett Hawke. Brett says that this Chinese swimmer, whose name I should know how to pronounce correctly because I have learned a little Mandarin, which almost makes this a little bit more embarrassing. Pan Shan Li, Brett Hawk, said that his time was not humanly possible. Or to put it in a different way, Brett was mad because bad. How does he know this? Well, to justify himself, he knows it's true because he has, quote, studied speed. Which, I don't really know how one goes about doing that besides rewatching the movie Cars, watching the new movie of The Flash with Ezra Miller, and then trying to drive as quickly as possible to the tallest building in your city. Woo! Okay, Cars was not that bad. The Flash deserved that joke. Cars, I'm sorry, Lightning McQueen, you are an innocent casualty of that suicide joke. And despite assurances from the regulatory authorities, that's a fun word. Anyway, despite assurances from them that the Chinese team is among one of the most tested in the entire Olympics, people are still casting unfair doubt on their victories. But let's just assume that Brett Hawk is actually right and the Chinese team's victory was not humanly possible. That means the only other explanation is they have got a robot in that pool. And if they have mastered that, like this guy is a robot, then we are well on track to reaching our 2025 goal of having more sex with robots than with humans. Let's go! There is also some of the more regular anti-Chinese discrimination, which frankly has been an Olympic tradition ever since they hosted the Olympics in 2008, and people were scared because there were a lot of people hitting the drum at the same time. In this case, people were taking aim at the American ping pong team. And newsflash, morons, what America lacks in population size or in any investment in any sport that isn't high school football, seriously, that's kind of all we do here, we make up for in our cultural idea of the Great American Melting Pot. The Great American Melting Pot. Famously talked about in Schoolhouse Rock, and today relevant in the fact that it is the only reason why the American cricket team made it to the final 8 of the World Cricket Cup. To question the Americanness of any team that is competing internationally for America is ludicrous. And at the risk of sounding like a 1950s anti-communist crusader, it is downright un-American. But all of this other run-of-the-mill bigotry really kind of goes to the back burner when you talk about probably the largest story in stupidity of this Olympics. You probably know it. Yes, we're talking about Imane Khelif. Khelif is from Algeria, originally being raised in a small village, competing for gold on an Olympic stage, and she has had to deal with millions of people baselessly accusing her of being a man. This all got started when Khelif's opponent got really upset that Khelif was punching her hard in the punching each other hard competition. And I've got a special clip here right from the ring. The Italian boxer immediately cast doubt on her defeat, quickly becoming a darling in right-wing media, and before you know it, there are tons and tons of people baselessly accusing this woman of actually being a man. Many different people weighed in, like Elon Musk, J.K. Rowling, and whichever one of the Paul brothers is worse, and now some of them are currently being sued by Khelif. Many of these people haven't even bothered correcting themselves or owning up to their mistakes, including J.K. Rowling, who decided that instead of wanting to be a universally beloved children's author, she wanted to have everyone know what she thinks about women's boxing. And that's really a shame, because it means we're never going to get that tell-all book about Anthony Goldstein, Ravenclaw, Jewish wizard. This all stems from, in large part, sexism and transphobia. Khelif doesn't really look like your traditional model of femininity. And I know, it must be truly shocking that a woman from a small Algerian village who participates in women's boxing doesn't conform to the portrait of what is accepted to be known as femininity. It also in part stems from Khelif being disqualified from another boxing organization, completely omitting the fact that this boxing organization's reputation is basically in the toilet, and any examination of that disqualification reveals it to basically have no merit at all. It doesn't make sense because none of this makes sense. Imane Khelif is from a small Algerian village in Algeria, obviously, but it's not like Algeria is really known to be the poster child of LGBTQ+ rights. Do you think they're just pumping out trans athletes secretly like makroud, which is, I believe, an Algerian dessert according to Google, which I looked up just to make this joke, and then I found out that I am allergic to it and most desserts that were on that list, which really makes me sad. Khelif would go on either because of or in spite of this online hate and go go on to win the gold medal. Good for her. And honestly, to me, all of this is rather upsetting and frankly counterintuitive, because all of this dialogue not only distracts from Khelif and her opponents and the other people who are getting medals in this event, but it also distracts from all the other athletes and all the other women athletes who are competing in this Olympics. The loudest critics of Imane Khelif were silent about the accomplishments of other women athletes, because they don't care. They don't care about anything other than getting you mad at a bunch of made-up and convincing millions of people on something that is absolutely not true. And some people still will not admit they were wrong even weeks later. And speaking of someone who probably should admit they were wrong, Rachel Gunn, better known more affectionately by her nickname of Raygun, the Australian sensation that's sweeping the nation and taking us all in a breakdancing celebration. Oh, why did I do that wordplay? Let's just move past it. Move on. Cut, please. Cut. She went viral for being, well, to be polite, quite shit, and making a mockery of herself as well as quite possibly the entire sport of breakdancing. In fact, her performance was so bad that not only did it not win a single point, I don't know how you grade breakdancing, but didn't win a point regardless, that now there are entire online conspiracy theories about Raygun. Conspiracy theories about how she masterminded getting the Olympics in there and it was all part of her PhD, and how her husband was on the selection committee, and none of that stuff is true, at least that we know of. But to be honest with you, the truth is both stranger than fiction and funnier. Raygun is not a Game of Thrones-esque schemer. She is a university lecturer and frankly has been a fan of breakdancing for quite a while. But the most important thing here is that she actually had to participate in an Olympic qualifying competition to make it to the Olympics. Meaning she beat 15 other people. 15 other people were beaten by Raygun. So regardless of how the Olympics ever went for her, I think we have to acknowledge that Raygun is a champion. Kind of. At least in the qualifiers. So let me show a clip of actual breakdancing contrasted with Raygun's routine. I think when they're put next to each other, it's very clear why Raygun did not get any points, and there's a pretty big skill gap. Raygun's poor performance was really the main thing that went viral from the competition, and it's being cited as one of the reasons why breakdancing will not be making a return in the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles. And I think it's pretty easy to argue that sports like baseball should be in the Olympics over breakdancing. Although, to be fair, the last time we had baseball in the Olympics, the American team that was fielded was essentially the baseball equivalent of Raygun. So the moral of the story is that we should be bullying Major League Baseball for not sending any star players to the Olympics. We shouldn't be cyberbullying Raygun because, and maybe this is my paternal instinct speaking, she was doing her best. She did a kangaroo pose. She's from Australia. She was trying. Stop giving her death threats. So concludes another chapter in the long book of the Olympics. Oh, hold on. The conservatives also got really mad at the closing ceremony because it was demonic and satanic and against Christianity or whatever. I'm getting a little bored of this whole shtick. It's insane that you can have a fully fledged career on social media by doing the same things that preachers did in the 1900s, by calling, oh, that jazz music is the devil's jive, or something like that. Like, that's what you're doing. You're saying, oh, it's satanic. No, just, oh my god, just get over it. Just get over it. Go play with your kids, if you have any. What I take most from this, and all the various forms of stupidity and some of the truly stupid things that I've had to read to make this video, is that they distract from honoring the athletes. We all have to take time to honor the great Olympians that actually make the Olympics possible. And I think that's honestly what most people want to do. Most people do not want to sit there and be upset about the fact that there was a blue man or a headless woman in the Olympic opening ceremony. Like, the Olympics are honestly really special, and I think with the way it was presented by Peacock and NBC, like, a lot of people were really able to see that and feel that in a greater sense than we have previously. And we're able to see all these awesome athletes, some of whom are on their last Olympics ever, some of whom are only on their first of what will be many. And for those lucky few who are able to continue, I hope this cloud of stupidity and outrage does not follow you to the next Olympics. Although, unfortunately for you, the next Summer Olympics will be taking place in 2028 in Los Angeles, so I very much doubt we're done with the stupidity. But that's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Did you enjoy this retrospective? Was it fun to think back at the Olympics, or fun to make fun of all these people who have incredibly stupid opinions about the Olympics? Comment down below. Let me know some of your thoughts about what I've talked about in the video, or just let me know some of your plain old favorite Olympic memories in general. And if you liked the video, please give this video a like. Helps show it out to more people. And if you like my content, please subscribe. It's free, and I upload 1 to 2 new videos every single week. But for now, that's going to do it for me. I hope you've enjoyed the video. My name is Patrick, and my friends call me Pat, and I will see you for the next one.